integrity too, if that's okay, Representative Davis.
Absolutely.
You know, as y'all know, we have been ranked, I'd like to think you know this, we've been ranked #1 in election integrity for the last 3 years. Okay? And by the way, that's not just a poll of my family. That's the Heritage Foundation that came up with that. Interesting story is the first time that we achieved that ranking of #1 a few years back, thanks to our legislators. There's a group out there that really didn't believe that we could possibly be #1. They said there's no way that Tennessee is #1 election integrity, and they contacted the Heritage Foundation and they said you should recalculate the score, and you should do it based on X, Y, and Z, and told Heritage that there's other metrics I'll be looking at. And Heritage said, okay, maybe you're right. Let's recalculate it. And then the gap between us and #2 black, so it got even bigger. And frankly, guys, I mean, as Tennesseans, one of the things that I think is great about our state is also something that's difficult at times is that we've got a lot of hard workers in the legislature. We've got a lot of hard workers in state government that we just go do our job. And we're not out there beating the drum each and every day saying, look at us, we're #1. Now, we do that in baseball, okay? We do college baseball. But we don't really do a great job of touting all the great things that we're doing inside state government, trying to serve our fellow Tennesseans. And so I got tickled the other night. Clay Travis posted something about how great Florida was in election integrity, and he was chastising Arizona, building Florida up. And I hit Clay back, and I just say, Clay, we're proud you're a Tennessean, and you should be proud of our state. Check this out. That's the Heritage Scorecard. So there's a lot of things that go into that. And one recent victory, and I think Chairman Briggs, I think Speaker Zachary, I think Representative Davis, and Speaker Sexton. We have been so fortunate to have a leader like Speaker Sexton, who really gets it, who is a big thinker, and I'll give credit to him on a couple other things here in a minute. But something that we just came out of the special session with is some of y'all are aware, or may have been under the false impression that someone who is legally here in the state of Tennessee but not a citizen, their driver's license looks the same as someone who is a citizen. And they're here legally, they're driving legally, not trying to cast aspersions, but in fact, because of the way that data comes to our office from the Department of Safety, it caused us some concerns, and so we wound up mailing out 14,375 letters to people who might not have been citizens. We didn't know, that's why we sent the letter and gave them the opportunity to correct their voter file. And one of the scary things is, guys, is that we have not found people who have been voting illegally, but we are digging into every one of those cases of people who haven't gone back to correct their voter file. Is because of the National Voter Registration Act, if someone is going in to get a driver's license, or going in to sign up for some type of benefit like the Department of Human Services, Department of Health, what have you, by federal law, that person has to be given a voter registration form. Even though that non-citizen, in the case of someone who's come to get a driver's license, might have told us, and I say us, the state of Tennessee, that they're not a citizen. They have presented papers saying they're not a citizen, but by federal law, you still have to give them that voter registration form. And so if you're from some other country and you have a government official telling you, okay, here's your voter registration form, you tend to believe, well, the government wouldn't give this to me if it were wrong. We have set people up for failure. We have set these people who are not here, who are here legally, but not citizens, up for failure. Now, by the way, many of those go on to ultimately become citizens, perfectly legally, and then get registered to vote. But they also have no reason that they ever have to go back to the Department of Safety and say, I'm a citizen now. My driver's license is all a little different because they look the same. Long story short, I promise, finally, they passed a law for us during this last special session that now says that the driver's license for a citizen has to look different than someone who is a non-citizen, and tied that into our laws that give us the ability at the polls to look at that and use that as well to say, hey, I'm sorry, your driver's license shows you're not a citizen. you shouldn't be voting, because that person should be registered to start with. If they were to try and come and vote or register to vote with that, then we would know that. So that's one more tool, and it's things like that, common sense things that we're doing that are making sure that in Tennessee, that whenever you cast your vote, you can trust that it's been cast correctly, and also just importantly, that it hasn't been canceled out by someone who's not supposed to be on the voter rolls. One of the shocking things that happened to me not long after I became Secretary of State, I'm a member of our National Association of Secretaries of State. Had a period of time where I disagreed with some things and dropped out for a while. Now I'm back in trying to influence younger Secretaries of State. But when I first got there, there's a lady from a think tank in California. I know that sounds contradictory. Think tank in California. And I asked her this question, and I said, what is wrong with someone presenting a photo ID and us being able to look at that and be able to show that that person is who they say they are? And she shot back at me, and I'll never forget this. I mean, it kind of happened rapid fire. And she says, I just want to know what level of voter disenfranchisement you're willing to accept. And I had the presence of mind just real quick to say, I guess the better question is what level of voter fraud are you willing to accept?
That's exactly right.
And I didn't realize, I didn't fully hit me exactly what I'd stumbled upon until I started getting high fives from a lot of other people in the room after the meeting was over. Because the bottom line is, and we saw this back in 2000, there's a lot of people that would love to sacrifice integrity for convenience. Don't get me wrong, we want every eligible Tennessean to register to vote, okay? I believe that when people are educated consumers with their vote, then we win, okay? But I want every eligible Tennessean to register to vote and then go and vote. Being a registered voter without going to vote is kind of like going to a UT football game, being in the stands, stomping, screaming, cheering, throwing a mustard bottle at Lane Kiffin. That makes you a spectator. It doesn't make you participate. If you want to put the helmet and pads on, our form of government, then you've actually got to get out and go and vote and be an educated consumer with their vote. And if you really want to amplify your influence, then you do what groups like this have done, and you go out there and you knock on doors and you do the things necessary to talk to others about, what they believe is important, and try and make your case. Because that makes our society stronger, I believe, when we go and participate and we are educated consumers with their vote. But nothing could disenfranchise a voter more than believing that their one vote is being canceled out by someone who's voting illegally. And that's why photo ID laws are important. That's why when we talked about being able to have a difference in how a driver's license looks for a citizen versus a non-citizen, it's important. It's also one reason we don't mail out ballots to everybody. In Tennessee, there are perfectly legal ways for you to get an absentee ballot. There's 14 different reasons. They're all perfectly legitimate. And by the way, if somebody says they're sick, I don't go to their house. Chris Davis doesn't go to their house and get a thermometer out and ask them to prove that they're sick. But you do sign a piece of paperwork saying that I am too ill, I'm too sick to get to the polls. And we check the signature on that absentee ballot application when it comes back to the Knoxville County Election Commission, all the other 94 election commissions, to be able to show that is your signature. And then we mail you a ballot back out. We check the signature when that ballot comes back in. We don't allow unsecured drop boxes. And by the way, those absentee ballots, I mentioned Speaker Sexton a while ago, an idea Speaker Sexton had, and I don't know of any other states were doing it at the time that he said this, is we're sitting there brainstorming one night. He says, what if we watermarked our absentee ballots? So yeah, we can do that. Let's go make that happen. So we're one of the states now that watermarks our absentee ballots. I get tickled though. The media will ask me, says, well, can you show us what the watermark looks like? If I showed you what it looked like, that would kind of defeat the purpose. And people the opportunity to try and counterfeit those absentee ballots. And so not that we don't believe we've had a problem with counterfeit absentee ballots, but why not take the added step to protect the integrity of those ballots? And that's another example of things we have done. Something else that you may remember in 2000. Some of you, I guarantee, is pretty well educated room. Some of you heard of something called Zuckerbucks.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If anybody hasn't, go home and if you're sleeping, if you're not sleeping at night, you want to Google Center for Tech and Civic Life. You'll be able to see a map where the Zuckerberg Foundation put lots of money into election administration across the country. And I'm not talking about campaigning, I'm talking about actually into the administration. In Tennessee, we told them, hey, thanks but no thanks. We've got the money we need. We know what we're doing, and we're going to follow our laws here. We're not going to color outside the lines. And so we told all 95 counties that, hey, we've got money if you need it. Don't accept any outside funding. 94 out of 95 counties did not accept any of that funding. I'm not going to call any names. I'll just tell you the county that accepted the funding rhymes with Smavenson. I didn't think it was that far. Well, I went ahead and cut it off because there's another county people typically name when I do that. And so we went back and said, we told you we had money. Why did y'all take that money? And not that they did anything untoward with it, but we don't want to create the perception of anybody that an outside entity can put their thumb on the administration of elections. So we went back to the legislature and said, we want a bill that makes it very difficult for a county or the state to take funding from an outside entity to fund election administration. They gave it to us. They passed a bill that says that if the state wants to accept those dollars, then I have to go and get Randy McNally's and Cameron Sexton's signature on a piece of paper saying that we can accept those outside dollars. Y'all know Randy McNally and y'all got no Cameron Sexton. I'm not going to be able to get those dollars. I'm not going to bother asking, okay? It's kind of like your 60-year-old child asking if they can take the car at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's not going to happen. And also, I'll come right to you, I promise. And also, if a county wants to accept those dollars, they've got to get my signature. And you can refer to the first thing I mentioned, that I'm elected by the legislature. Speaker Sexton and Randy McNally and these fine Knox County legislators, they're not going to let us take those dollars either.